Hello, good evening, friends. Here's Pastor Avendaño with you, sharing today's Bible reflection. Today we share the passage in Mark 10, chapter 27, verse 27. Jesus looked at them and said, "With men this is impossible, but not with God. All things are possible with God." How many times we use this Bible verse to motivate ourselves when we are really battling with something we have in front of us. I really use this passage when there are times of struggle in my life and understand that our faith and our spiritual area is very important to have that confidence that even that we are having a tough time with something, everything with God can be accomplished when we have that faith and that trust in Jesus Christ. But I like how we can see a couple verses behind this Bible verse that Jesus tells about this reality that things are possible with him when, because of human understanding, at the moment can be a impossible a thing to accomplish. We see the story of this young man, a rich, young, wealthy man that reaches Jesus Christ, and he wants to know a very good thing for his life. He's very interested in knowing about this eternal life inheritance, which I think is a very good thing, especially with this description of a guy that having a very wealthy life and able to do whatever he wanted or able to do a lot of things because of his economical status. Even with that, he comes to God, and he was a very good guy. He was following the commandments, like since he was a kid, he describes. But Jesus goes a little bit more than that, and when he goes to the real center of his life, or whatever, it was the main focus on the real motivation in his life. Jesus goes to that area when he asks, and he tells him, right, just go and sell whatever you have and give it to the poor. And that's when the kid just goes away and ignores what can be that experience if he follows the invitation Jesus is giving him at the moment. So we can reflect on this situation this guy is living, because he was a good man, but the thing is that the center of his life, the real thing that was motivating him to do things, to be able to reach, to be able to be a good person, maybe to help. Maybe he used to help poor people or people in need before, not because Jesus said it means that he didn't offer something to a needy person. But the thing is that God tells him to sell everything, not sell some things or share things that you may have, a little about your a little amount of your money or your possessions. So Jesus is talking about the everything in your life. Get it away and see what's the reality without it. So when Jesus puts this challenge in front of this guy and makes him to do a decision that is gonna turn things all around, that's when he decides to step away instead of trying and see if this experience is gonna change his life in order to inherit eternal life. So when we understand this passage, when everything is impossible for men, after the disciples were discussing then who can be saved. If this guy was a good guy, but there was still something there that wasn't clicking perfectly, and that's something in at least in this this rich boy was the center of his decisions, the center of his motivation, the real reason why he was okay. He was depending on this economic status. He was depending so much on this physical, material area in his life. But when Jesus brings this reality in front of him and he has to take a decision, when he has to say, okay, not anymore this area, not anymore this gift, these tools, this status that I have, but something spiritually, something different. That's when he just says, I just can't do it, or thinks he just can't. So that's when we understand and we can reflect a little bit more on this verse 27. Those impossible things are not impossible just because of us as humans and because we are not divine like God or that spiritually gifted like him. But we understand everything's possible with God because things are possible through that faith we are able to put on him. So describing a little bit the story that we just see on the verses behind, we just can reflect and meditate the same thing. When we depend so much on these material areas in our life, our professional life, our career, our work, our family, the friendship, relationships, social life we have, all those things are good and might be in a very good standing. So we can feel very comfortable and satisfied with those areas. But when those other areas are top priority than the spiritual area that God and Jesus was trying to make this guy understand, when this is greater than your connection with God, you know it's going to be impossible. That's not going to be the perfect connection to inherit eternal life in this case. So for us to have that good standing relationship with God, to have that personal satisfaction in our spiritual area, we have to understand we just can't live these other areas in our life, like material, economically, social, whatever, can be might be stronger, might be more important, become more essential for your sustenance, for your satisfaction, for your fulfillment, for your desires, than the spiritual, emotional life Jesus is offering you, making them possible through faith. So I want to invite you tonight as we understand what happened to this young rich man. We all have areas in our life where we feel stronger. We all have very good, great tools that by God's wisdom we have and we use. And when those things are in perfect shape, in perfect connection with the spiritual world, we are living in a real relationship with God. That brings a balance. That brings a stability. So everything is possible when that relationship with us, when we realize that our connection with God is in that good standing, we feel perfectly okay with him. Now we can see that these other elements, like this guy's richness, that the money he had, the properties he had, was like a very nice and great gift he had. And he could help so many others. He could have the opportunity to bless many, many people around. So he was not the only one to be feeling okay with a good standing, but even helping tens, maybe hundreds of people around him. So at the end, when we understand this verse 27, things might be very impossible for us when we depend on these material, human, physical areas, which we do. But when that is the only or top thing we have, when that's the main source or the only source, we have to focus, to have our goals, to have our motivation, to have our vision set on those things, instead of the faith in the God that makes everything possible. That's when we feel things just can't work out. That's when we see things impossible, because we are not seeing on God's vision. We are just looking things on the material, human, physical area of life we are having. So the invitation for tonight is live those possible things through God's faith. See everything is real and possible when our relationship with God is stable, and that will bring a perfect balance in each and every area of our life. Remember, guys, everything is possible with God. Everything according to His will, and when our faith is real with the real God that we trust. God bless you. Good night.